Coming up next on America's Hope, a presidential visit to Lahaina to bring comfort and the promise of help to the people of Maui. And then Operation Blessing and Convoy of Hope. See what they're doing on the ground as they work with locals to rebuild and restore. All that and more next on tonight's America's Hope. Good evening. Welcome to America's Hope. I'm Kelly Wright, and always we like to tell you that we hope that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. You really do. So tonight we want to take some time out now to focus on the outpouring of help for the people of Maui, particularly for the Lahaina area, which is on the western part of the island. And as many of you know, a raging wildfire ravaged the area 2 weeks ago. The firestorm killing at least 115 people so far, and the governor of Hawaii says the death toll is expected to rise. In fact, at least 1,000 people are still missing since the fire struck. And President Biden visited Maui on Monday, the president viewing the overwhelming devastation on the island, and he met with local elders and leaders. And standing near the famous banyan tree, Mr. Biden said the federal government will help the people of Maui persevere through the tragedy.
The country grieves with you, stands with you, and will do everything possible to help you recover, rebuild, and respect culture and traditions when the rebuilding takes place. From stories of grief, we've seen so many stories of hope and heroism, of the aloha spirit. Every emergency responder put their lives on the line for us, save others. Everyday heroes, neighbors helping neighbors, Native Hawaiian leaders offering solace and strength. And this banyan tree, one called it the diamond in the rough of hope. Another referred to fire cannot reach its roots, what he said. Fire cannot reach its roots. That's Maui. That's America.
For people living in Lahaina, life in the aftermath of the firestorm is very hard, extremely difficult. The wildfires obliterated everything they owned and disrupted the life they once knew as citizens of the royal capital of the Hawaiian Kingdom. But Lahaina is still standing strong in hope and persevering in rebuilding and helping each other through the most challenging disaster they have faced in their history. The need for clean drinking water, food, clothing, and more is great. From near and far, by boat and by plane, critical donations and aid are pouring into the area. Volunteers from local churches and organizations are on the front lines, working around the clock to distribute the much-needed supplies.
Last 24 hours, we've been able to help 380 plus people. We've opened our church to help whoever comes in and whoever needs help. We've gotten calls from the airport to see if we could feed people, house people, and our community, our church community, and the community has opened their arms, and we've been able to serve our community with the best we know how, which is just to love on them and feed them.
It's whatever we don't need, whatever we can give. You know, the people are devastated. This is so hard for our community. It's a sad, sad thing. Just look at everything in your house and say, I don't need this today, and get rid of it, because there's so many people who don't have nothing. They have nothing.
All we're able to offer is food, shelter, and to just love on them, and really just to be a listening ear to what they're going through. And of course, we've seen a lot of tourists that has been displaced through the whole process, not able to get back in, and we've housed hundreds of them. And you know, the thing that I hear the most is, wow, what an amazing aloha spirit.
So many groups are flocking to Lahaina and Maui to help the people who have been ravaged by this firestorm. Notably, right now, we're talking to David Wright, who is the Senior Deployment Officer for Operation Blessing. Operation Blessing is based in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And yet, as soon as the news broke about what happened in that part of the world in Hawaii, they were deployed. And David, you are now there, and you've been operating there. And first of all, tell me what's happening on the ground as we speak, because you're joining us from Lahaina.
Well, what we're seeing is a grassroots effort between the people that live on coming together, people loving on each other, people supporting each other, people, family taking family in, family taking, well, other family in. They don't like to call each other friends in some of these situations, but they're very quick to point out that it's family helping family no matter what the situation is out here. So we're seeing an influx, obviously huge amounts of support in terms of materials, much needed items, things of that nature. But the one thing that we're definitely impressed by out here is the sense of family, the sense of community, the way they're coming together and loving on each other and just trying to take care of their own.
When you first arrived there, you know, we've all seen pictures, but when you first arrived there, did the pictures really tell the story, or was it far worse than anyone could imagine once you were able to see it in person?
I think it could be hard or difficult to encompass a disaster. The photography, the video, it's very representative, but until you can stand in the panorama, it's really hard to capture that on video. It is a good representation, but there's so much more to it once you're actually standing there. So,
and the people themselves who have survived this incredible firestorm that swept through their area without any warning, without any notice. You mentioned earlier how they're all pulling together, family helping family. That is part of the hope that they have to recoup their losses. But the untold aspect of this is the fact that so many people were still missing, and the search for what happened to them is still going on. How is that weighing upon the psyche of the people that you're there helping?
You can imagine that is a very sensitive topic. One that I personally have not addressed that with them. I haven't encountered anybody who's missing a family member, first of all. So that's a blessing from God. We know there's so many more people out there that have family members missing at the time. And so people are trying to be very respectful of that and very sensitive to that. And so I have not spoken to anybody, but you can only imagine that if you were missing a family member, what would that do to your day to day? What would your thoughts be on every minute of the day?
Yeah,
you can only imagine. One can only imagine.
It's certainly where many people are focusing their prayers to help those families who do not know where their loved ones are. Listen, David, Operation Blessing moved there very quickly, even ahead of, for all intents and purposes, ahead of the federal government. There were people on the ground there to help the families helping families. What's the purpose of Operation Blessing being there?
To show God's love first and foremost, but to attempt to show that in the form of communication with them, being somebody that they can talk to if that's what they want, but also in bringing supplies and relief in the form of food, water, clothing, things of that nature. And when we got on the ground in Kona the first day, we were met with a list of needs, and we went around the area, back and forth across the island to a few different places to try and buy the supplies that were on that list and get them over to the people that needed them. Logistically, that was a little bit tough. The ride over to Maui isn't a short one by boat, and some of the items aren't able to be put on airplanes. Some of the gas for the barbecues that they needed for cooking and things of that nature, but larger items, the barbecues themselves, the clothing, the tents, the shelters, we were able to get those mobilized and onto the trip over to Maui. So
that in and of
I'd like
itself,
to let them know that they're not alone.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We have a little bit of delay, obviously, because of you joining us from Hawaii, and we're here in the States. And technology sometimes, as you know, is not always our best friend over long distances, especially given the fact that some of the technology is already weakened in Lahaina and Maui. When you're encountering the people to provide them with the help that they need, logistically, you mentioned how difficult it's been in terms of getting around. So the challenge is meeting the people at their need. When you're there to help them, how are they responding to your help?
So some of our partners here on the island, YWAM, Youth with a Mission, have been very, very in partnering with us to take us into the areas and let people know that we can be trusted. They have family here. Their families are here, and they are residents here, so they're recognized as locals, and therefore we're able to travel into some of these places with them and get face to face with the people in need.
I'm talking to David Wright of Operation Blessing. We're going to take a break and come back with more of my interview with David and what's happening on the ground in Hawaii. That's next on America's Hope. And welcome back to America's Hope. I'm Kelly Wright. As we continue to see what's happening on the ground in Lahaina, in the Maui, Hawaii area, we can see that people are helping each other. We've been talking to David Wright of Operation Blessing. We continue now with our conversation. I can remember when Operation Blessing first started, it was able to take supplies, medical supplies, food supplies, all over the world to places in need. And have you ever seen anything as devastating as Lahaina, the worst wildfire that we've seen in history in the United States in a very long time?
If anything I've seen, it's as bad a tornado I've seen. The devastation, the removing of houses from foundations and placing them blocks away from where they're supposed to be. That's the type of thing that you'd see in a tornado. In this instance, the way that the houses have been devastated by the fire, it's very similar. It's on par with any tornado destruction that I've witnessed. The house, some of the brick is left from the houses that burned, but besides that, everything else is gone.
And David, Operation Blessing, how do you, I know you're giving a lot of people supplies. What kind of supplies are you giving them? We've seen things like diapers for babies, and then we saw how you were actually using water filtration in a very unique way so that people could have drinkable water. Talk to me about some of the things that you've had to do in terms of your operations on the ground to meet the needs of the people there.
To kind of just capture that list, we bought barbecues and things like that to prepare clean, healthy food. We bought clothing for the people that lost everything. They need something to wear. And like you said, diapers, feminine products, hygiene items, things of that nature. Water storage containers to go along with the water filtration systems that we put into place, because that's one of the things that you hear from people is that, yes, the water is making it to the island here, but so is the plastic waste. So to be able to provide water to these communities, filtered water, their concern is the benzene in the water from the melted pipes. So that's one of the things that this filter system removes is the contaminants that everyone is concerned with. But to be able to put those into containers that they can carry on instead of just bringing more waste of plastic bottles and things like that to an already constrained environment. It's an island, obviously, and so there's only so much room on it. So the more waste we can reduce in the process of providing this water for them, I think that's a win-win for everybody. But those are some of the big things that we're working on and providing as we start to shift our focus towards how Operation Blessing can support long-term.
And when you talk about helping them long-term, how do you help them in terms of having the hope to make it through this long-term?
Obviously, getting back to normal is one of the priorities in a situation like this, and to that end, we're discussing possibilities with different pastors on the island. The pastors and the churches are the enduring presence. And Operation Blessing is here behind the scenes to support them as much as possible. Not to be in the limelight, not to take any of the credit goes to God, but the pastors in their churches that lived here before and we're going to be here after we leave are the ones that we want to facilitate to do the good, strong work. And one of the things that we're talking about is how they're going to get back to school, the children, how they're going to get back to school. So we're talking with pastors on ways to help make a change in that situation for them.
Yeah, David, I can hear it in your voice. There's a lot of work that you're doing on the ground, so we appreciate you taking the time out to spend a few moments with us to enlighten us and make us aware of what's happening there in Lahaina. And what you just talked about, how Operation is staying in the background, trying to help those frontline volunteers, those pastors, those churches, because they're the ones who know the families, working with the families, and yet there you are in support. Yet I can hear and see the weariness in you. How many people do you have out there from Virginia Beach, the headquarters of Operation Blessing, and how long are your days to help the people who have spent many sleepless nights wondering what has happened and why has this firestorm devastated their island?
Sure. Right now, it's my videographer and I are the ones out here, and our days are long, but not in the sense that we're out there always lifting heavy things and moving things around. I don't want to misrepresent or take anything away from the people that are truly doing the heavy, hard work out here, but our presence here isn't a traditional presence due to the logistical nature, the location of the islands. Whereas in the United States mainland, we would be able to bring in volunteers from all over the country who would either drive or fly to get there. We just wouldn't be in a position to do that here. It wouldn't be. We feel like the funds could be better spent supporting the churches who have a multitude of volunteers already here. So rather than burden the infrastructure, take up housing that will probably be needed for residents that have been displaced by the fires, we're going to come here financially and try and support the people that live here and give them the ability to help themselves. In that sense, that's how Justin and I, my videographer, are doing the work here. And we're up at 6 a.m, but then it's meetings during the day and then travel around to find out what the needs are and who's doing what and how we can assist in that. But that's kind of the bulk of our day, to be able to help in the way we feel is the least burdensome on the island and their people, and the most supportive that we can be as an organization.
Yeah, what's the one thing that stands out to you right now in terms of the people that you've been able to meet? Is there one example that sticks close to you that hits you in your heart and your mind and your soul to realize we have to be here?
Absolutely, it's family. They're very quick to call out anything that takes away from the concept. It's family helping family. When you get there and you talk to them and they are doing all the work, bringing supplies in over the beach from the sailboats and the jet skis and the paddle boards, and then setting up their own locations, family sharing sites. They're not distribution hubs. They're not resource centers or anything like that. They're family sharing sites. And they're very, very clear about that. So I think it's that love and that sense of family.
Indeed, the family really matters, and at this particular point in time, our prayers are with the families there on the ground who are having to live through this. One other question, how can people who want to help and realize that they can't be there because they would likely be in the way, what can they do to help out the people of Lahaina and Maui to help them get through this?
At this point, they can donate. That's prayers, obviously, first and foremost, prayers for healing, prayers for the missing to be found, But to go to ob.org, they can donate, and then we will in turn get that money here on the ground to the people we've met that we trust. Because I'll just be frank, the scam artists and the bad things that you hear about disasters are already showing up here. So they're actually very good about it. They sense a scammer and they get on social media right away, and they put out the word for people not to trust them, and that's good. But if people want to help through a trusted venue, then they can go to ob.org, and there'll be plenty of links there to help them get through the donation process.
Very important that you mentioned that, especially the fact that the scam artists are out there. But ob.org, meaning Operation Blessing, which has been operating in disaster situations around the world for more than 40 years. I'm talking to David Wright. David, my final question for you is, what's your hope for the people of Lahaina and Maui and for America?
Ultimately, my hope is they find God's love in this, or they find God in all of this. They find Christ through the people that are trying to help them, but that they have a full and complete recovery in the material world, and they get back to life as usual, or as much as possible after something like this.
David Wright of Operation Blessing, headquartered in Virginia Beach, yet he's on the ground right there in Lahaina, responding to the need for organizations like Operation Blessing to be on the ground. As you've mentioned, David, family helping family at a devastating point in their lives, a crisis that you're helping them in some way to manage, and the hope prevails. Thank you, David, for joining us from Hawaii. We appreciate you. We know you got more work to do. We'll let you get back to that as we continue to focus more on other things that we can do to help out the people in Hawaii. Thank you. And welcome back to America's Hope, where we're focusing tonight on the level of care and concern and help that's pouring in to Lahaina. That's on the western part of Maui, and as you know, 2 weeks ago, it was devastated by wildfires. You could call it a firestorm. But what we've seen in the aftermath, we've seen people coming together, family to family, people to people, helping each other, embracing what's at hand. And that is the fact that they must rebuild, restore, and help each other. But help is on the way from the mainland, including Convoy of Hope. We're joined now by Ethan Foritz of Convoy of Hope. He's joining us now from their headquarters in Springfield, Missouri. Ethan, good of you to join us this hour. I hope I didn't botch your last name. But,
no, it's been said a lot worse, Kelly. You did a great job, and thanks for having me on.
Well, look, thanks for being with us. You're right there in the main headquarters of Convoy of Hope. I've been to that facility, and it is very active. Your organization responds to needs around the world. How are you responding to the need that so many of us have been watching unfold in Lahaina?
Well, when we see the pictures on your air and on our smartphone of what's happened in Lahaina, and especially if you've ever visited there, you've been to that area, so you know what it used to look like, and you see it now. All of it is charred. It's devastation, and it's just heartbreaking when you think about the people who maybe they lost a loved one, they lost their house. Not only did they lose their house, they lost the entire town. So everything they know is gone. Try to put yourself in their position a little bit. It's impossible to do, really, but your heart goes out to them. So what Convoy of Hope has been doing for more than a week now is provide them with things that they need. We early on started providing battery packs that are solar generated, solar powered, so they can recharge the batteries, so that the people so many people on the island didn't lose their house, but they're in their house now, allowed back in. They don't have electricity. So these charge fans. It allows them to work fans and lights and charge their phones, and then you can charge the battery packs throughout the day. And we're providing food and water and hygiene kits, baby supplies, all the things that we take for granted here on the mainland every day. And they used to take for granted, but now they don't have access to them anymore. So those are the things we're providing on a daily basis, as well, as hope, because that's what we're giving ultimately, is hope that everybody in America knows what you're going through. We care, and we're doing our best to help.
You know, it's really good to hear you say that and know that Convoy of Hope is providing the hope and the help that the people need. I've seen Convoy of Hope at so many different operations, not only for disaster relief, but just helping people recover from whatever they're going through. It might be poverty, it might be some other situation. They'll go into areas to say, we're here to bring some hope and reconciliation to a community. And so I'm looking at your warehouse right there. Explain to us what goes on there.
Well, you can see the forklifts are constantly moving. There's product in front of me in rows for the garage doors to be able to get the trucks in and out as they deliver supplies. Every day, stuff is moving in and out of here. A lot of it comes from here. It's going to Maui. It's going to California now. Cleaning supplies for people who have experienced flooding. Their houses were flooded. The water gets in quickly. It leaves quickly. They're left with a mess. We have cleaning buckets that hundreds of college students gathered here yesterday to put together to send to California. And then we're also working out of a facility similar to this, not quite as large, but our regional distribution center that just opened in Sacramento, California. It just opened a month ago, and it has been put to work very quickly, sending things to Maui from there. It's more quick. It happens more quickly whenever we can do it that way from there. It's sending stuff up to the wildfires in Washington and Canada, and then now in California, the tropical storm remnants that they're dealing with there.
You know, Ethan, I'm amazed. I find it astounding what Convoy of Hope has been able to put together over the years. Talk to us about the mission of Convoy of Hope. I know this isn't about Convoy of Hope because you guys are all about the business of helping people in need, but I'd like Americans to see what they've been able to help provide in terms of donations to Convoy of Hope and how now you've turned that around to give to others and help them.
Yeah, number one, more than 91 cents of every dollar goes where the donor wants it to go. That's something we work really hard at to keep our overhead low and to get this product where it goes at the lowest cost possible. But we do a lot of things at Convoy of Hope. We're an international faith-based organization that serves people. We do that in a number of ways. We feed more than 533,000 kids in our school-based feeding program around the world on a regular basis. We empower women and girls so that they can get jobs and be able to help provide for their family. We teach people how to farm their land with our agriculture programs. It maybe is my favorite thing because once they learn how to farm their land, it's a way to end generational poverty because they pass that knowledge down the line to their kids and they're no longer in our food lines. They're growing their own food and able to sell it at nearby villages and make money. So we love to see the process there. And then I think what we're best known for is our disaster relief. And that's what's going on right now on a daily basis in so many places. We're still in Ukraine. We've been there since the start of the war, delivering aid to people there. We're working in Turkey and Syria following the earthquakes there. Hurricane Ian down in Florida, Fort Myers last fall, working there long term. And of course, the more recent disasters that we've seen, we're working on an active basis there. So the organization started almost 30 years ago. It started out with our founder, after Mother Teresa herself challenged him and said, "What are you doing to help the poor and the suffering?" He was a young man at the time. He said, "Well, I'm not doing much of anything." Those words, she said, everyone can do something. Those words haunted him. So his something was to buy about $300 worth of groceries in California at the time and pass them out to a handful of migrant workers who needed help. During that time, since 1994, Convoy of Hope just last year hit 200 million people served and $2 billion worth of supply given out. So it's been an incredible story of growth and of success with Convoy of Hope.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I remember hearing that story as well when your founder was able to create that after, following what Mother Teresa had provoked him to do or inspired him to do, I should say. Look, we're going to take a slight break, Ethan. We'll be back with more to talk about Convoy of Hope and your mission right there in Lahaina, since that's the focus of our subject tonight. But what an outstanding organization, Convoy of Hope. Don't go anywhere, everyone. We're coming right back with more of Ethan in just a moment. And welcome back to America's Hope. I'm Kelly Wright. I'm talking to Ethan Florence, who is with Convoy of Hope. And we've been talking about the overall mission that Convoy of Hope, Ethan, has right now in bringing remedy and healing and hope to the people of Lahaina. What are you hearing from the people on the ground that are your frontline workers in that situation?
Number one, we're hearing the devastation. I mean, there are people whose lives have been turned upside down by this. It's going to be a very long-term recovery. So our hearts just break for them and go out to them. And Convoy of Hope is committed to helping long-term. We're planning to build tiny houses for people who lost their houses. So just to help them get back on their feet, it's something we can do quickly to start the process of growth and of healing in their lives. But another thing, Kelly, that we're hearing from our people on the front lines, and they've been there for more than a week now, is the strength of the community. They're really coming together. There are organizations like ours coming in, offering help, but the people of Lahaina, the people of Maui are coming together really in a remarkable way. The church is coming together to work to serve people on the island, Church Capital C, and it's just really meeting the needs of people and offering tangible help, spiritual help, whatever people need. And people need a lot right now because it's very easy for there to be this sense of hopelessness when you look around your island and you have to rebuild half of it almost. So we're trying to help them fight that hopelessness by giving them hope. And we're seeing that in the church on the island and in people on the island who are really pulling themselves up and saying, we can get through this. We know the mainland is behind us. We can tell by these organizations that have come in, and then they're working to help their neighbor. It's really remarkable.
You know, it is remarkable. And you said something that I want to unpack a little bit more, because you're not just there providing money and resources, and that's all important, you know, it's very important. Yeah. But you said, you know, spiritually, physically, so you're dealing with the whole person, mind, body, and soul. Why is that so important, especially in a time such as this, where people have been devastated, they're watching their lives disrupted by these firestorms that went through? Why is it so important to reach out to the whole person?
Well, because a lot of it starts in here, right? A lot of the way we feel starts here and here. And if those are headed the wrong direction, it's tough to overcome that with food and water. It takes more than that. So our people are there. They're very well trained in dealing with people. And a lot of what we do is work with local churches because they're in every community. They become our eyes and ears on the ground. They help us with volunteers whenever we go to an area. So that's what's happening in Lahaina and in Maui. We're working with some great churches there. And they can really help us minister to the spiritual needs of people who are really, really hurting. They're looking for answers. So anytime you can put your arm around somebody, tell them it's going to be okay. That's what they remember. That's what they truly need. And for people who want prayer, we're willing to pray with people and just help them overcome this immense hurdle that's been put in front of them. We know they can do it. They know they can do it. They just need to be urged and told that they can, and empowered a little bit.
Yeah, empowered indeed, spiritually, mentally, and physically, and that's certainly what they need right there. We were talking about the fact that so many people need that kind of help, but as you know, there's also the grim task of trying to find loved ones and friends and family members who have, for all intents and purposes, gone missing since the fire broke out 2 weeks ago. That's a very grim task. So the reason why I was asking about Convoy of Hope and its effort to deal with the whole person is because that's likely going to be something you'll have to deal with in the coming days and possibly weeks as that search for the missing continues. And we know from the governor of Hawaii that the death toll will likely rise. How do you help people in that situation beyond, of course, the tragic circumstances of the firestorm, but also the grim reality that loved ones are being lost?
Yeah, you're right, Kelly. A lot of people are going to be getting some really bad news in the next couple of weeks if they haven't already, or if they haven't come to that conclusion kind of in their mind already. We just want to be there with people. I think people, we all as humans need to know that other people care. In fact, that's what we hear about most. And part of my job is to report on what we're doing at scenes of disaster. So I go on the road. We have a camera crew. And sometimes we'll interview people who have come through the Convoy of Hope line. And I remember a guy getting tears in his eyes last year following Hurricane Ian, because he said, you know, it was great. You filled my trunk with supplies during this drive-through distribution. But it was knowing that people traveled so far to get here to help me. And the woman in the line who waved and said, God bless you. We're praying for you. You're going to get through this. That is what he remembered. That was the most important thing to him. Not the water, not the food, not the cleaning supplies or hygiene kits. Those are all important. But he really needed to know that people care. And one quick story from following Hurricane Harvey down in Texas. There was a woman who had a couple of weeks prior to the hurricane had lost her job. She was out of her job. Big oak trees had fallen on her house. She was sitting on her front porch, really in devastation at the end of her rope. And Convoy of Hope pulled up and helped her. We cut down the trees for her. And then a year or so later, we saw her. We didn't know her. We didn't remember her at the time, but she said on Twitter that cheese sandwiches and chainsaws saved my life. So we called her and said, we got a hold of her online and then called her and said, what do you mean by that? We did an interview with her. And she said that day, we didn't know it, but she was sitting on her front porch at her wit's end, thinking that she couldn't fix this mess of her life. And Convoy of Hope pulled up. But that day, she had a gun with her, and she was planning to take her life. When Convoy of Hope pulled up and delivered chainsaws and a cheese sandwich and some drinks to her. But what we really delivered, and we didn't know it at the time, was hope that tomorrow's going to be a better day. And she's around today because those volunteers showed up and offered her help and offered her hope. So, and the lesson I get from that is you never know what is seemingly a small gesture to you. You never know how big that is in somebody else's life in the moment. It could be the thing that makes the difference between life and death. And it's remarkable. It's an incredible story. And it gets me every time I tell it.
Wow. Yeah, it gets me too, my friend. I'm so glad you shared that story. Incredible moment in that woman's life, how you just being there and you know, with Convoy of Hope. And I know that's going on in Lahaina as well. You know, speaking of Lahaina, they say Lahaina strong, Lahaina united. That says something about the fabric of the people in that community. And of course, Lahaina represents the historic nature of Hawaii, the Hawaiian kingdom. And yet that kingdom has been rocked, as we've seen. But Convoy of Hope is showing up, along with other agencies. But they don't see, do they see the trucks of Convoy of Hope? Because I picture Convoy of Hope rolling in with their trucks. How do you, I guess you have other ways of delivering hope without your signature trucks rolling into a city during times of devastation.
We do. Yeah, normally, Kelly, you're right. We roll in with a literal convoy of hope, several trucks, because we're self-sufficient when we arrive on a scene. We have our own bunk trailers, bathroom trailers, all of that, so that we're not a drain on a community that's already been hit hard. This is a different instance. While it's in the United States, it is across the sea. So we're kind of, our strategy on this is kind of like an international disaster. And we have people who, that's what they do. So they're well-versed at getting supplies in airplanes, on ships, and sent the quickest route. We have the communications ways to do that. But you're right. On the islands, you're not seeing those Convoy of Hope trucks with logos on the side pulling in, but you're seeing rented trucks with deliveries pulling in, and you're seeing a warehouse that we're putting together that won't have a big Convoy of Hope sign on it like this one does, but it has the same hope inside, it has the same items inside, and it has the same people working to deliver the hope.
Ethan, I just love what you guys do. I've met a lot of you personally, and have always enjoyed the good people of Convoy of Hope, and it's a volunteer army that you have out there. Americans who want to help the people in Lahaina, how can they help Convoy of Hope deliver more hope and more help to the people there?
Well, we'd ask three things. Number one, if you're a praying person, we'd ask that you pray for us. Pray for wisdom and direction and favor and everything that we need to get products to all the people who so desperately need them right now in the most timely fashion that we can. Number two, we'd ask that you donate. Convoy of Hope has great relationships. We're able to take the $1 that you donate and turn it into at least $5 and get it where it's needed because we have great corporate donors that donate a lot of the supply you see behind me. You can do that at convoyofhope.org. The other thing we'd ask is that you advocate. That's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Everybody's on social media. Convoy of Hope is on Facebook and Instagram and Threads now, and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube. Pick a couple of those. Follow Convoy of Hope there. You'll get updates on what we're doing on a regular basis, and you may be blown away by all we do on a regular basis, but you'll be able to see updates there. And then you can share it with your friends. Who knows? Maybe you have a rich uncle that's looking for someone to donate to, a great organization that they can trust that's earned the highest rating, 4 out of 4 stars stars on Charity Navigator for the last 18 plus years.
Yeah, it's well deserved. Look, before I let you go, because I know you're busy, you've got a lot of work to do, you've got a lot of needs that need to be met in Hawaii and other places. What's your hope for America?
We want to bring everybody together. Politics, as you know, Kelly, has kind of gotten out of control. Everything is political when it doesn't have to be. So what we want to do, we want to work with everybody, regardless of political, religious, whatever it is. We want to bring people together as Americans, because that's what we do in tough times. And you see it even now. It may feel like it's less so, but it's happening. You go to the island of Maui right now, and you're going to see that. You come to Springfield, Missouri, and you're going to see people working to bring people together. So our hope is that we would unite and not let little things divide us, because we've been divided for too long.
Indeed. I concur 100%. Ethan, good to talk to you, my friend, right there at Convoy of Hope, delivering a message of hope to America and the world. Appreciate you so much. Keep on keeping on with what you're doing. Hope prevails, my friend.
You too. Keep telling good stories. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. God bless. We'll be back with my final word in just a moment. And welcome back. My final word tonight is that it's refreshing to see how people throughout America are reaching out to help the people of Lahaina. Maui, as we've seen, has been impacted severely because of the wildfires that struck 2 weeks ago. But the one thing that we've seen rising up is hope and friendship and the bond of helping people heal from the devastation they received. So no matter what state you live in, America, there are things that you can do. Look around your closet. If there's something extra that you can send to the people in Lahaina, do it. If there's food or anything else that you can send, take note and send it to them. And a donation is always helpful to all of the organizations that are there on the ground helping. Operation Blessing, Convoy of Hope, so many people working around the clock to help people in need. That's what America is about. When we're down on hard times, it's good to know that our neighbors are there to help lift us up, to always provide hope that prevails. Until next time, America, good night.
We are a family, together you and me, agreeing to disagree, but still live in harmony. The dream that gives hope to us is as strong as it ever was. United we stand, divided we fall. That's my America.